This is Andre Banks coming today for Banks Credit Chat. Going back to some fundamentals that, especially as the environment continues to change with creditors becoming more stricter in how they're lending things, especially how they're lending in their criteria, just give you some three quick things to remember in terms of presenting yourself as the best option for any time, for any creditor looking to provide you credit. And they're simple, but many people tend to forget these areas. The first one is showing your stable employment. I say it slowly because people tend to believe that when you're applying for credit that they're not going to pull backgrounds and try to get as much information as possible to make the best decision for them as a company should they provide you credit. And are you a good client for them? So having stable employment, it's a really big indicator. Many people think having numerous jobs, it doesn't show well. It doesn't show that you're consistent, and you cannot develop a good enough pattern for the creditor to really notice that, okay, is this person stable enough so if I do lend him credit or her credit, that they will be able to pay me back in the time that's allocated on a consistent basis, and in general. So having stable employment that shows consistency is extremely important. And it's a fundamental that many people tend to forget about, how showing financial stability is one of the factors that comes into establishing credit. We've been so conditioned that credit is so readily available that when times become tougher, that creditors would not start looking back to fundamentals that should have been the criteria to begin with. So establish yourself with a stable employment that you've been there consistently for some years. It just shows better and helps along in the approval process, and actually provides you in terms of higher limits as well. Second thing that goes along with the first, having a stable history of being inside one place of residence. Many people tend to, if you're showing on your credit report that you've moved a number of places, it does give off the impression that you're not stable. Again, that stability is extremely important with dealing with any creditor. So having a stable residency is extremely important. Many people tend to forget that, and it's a fundamental. And I'm saying going back to the fundamentals because, again, the economic climate is changing, even though it's not readily posted on sometimes the regular media. They kind of, especially when it gets too close to times, they tend to, just kind of underpass where the really things are going on. And credit, as we know, is how we survive and we exist in this day and age. So showing a stable residence, that you've been there for a number of years, that you can actually have that, and it's on your credit report, and if it's it really goes a long way, especially if you're looking for increasing your credit limits and then providing you more credit. The final one is pretty much everyone should know. When you're applying for credit, be selective and try not to have too many inquiries. Be strategic in what you're doing. People tend to apply for anything and everything, and that's not really the best option and the best plan for you going forward if you're trying to develop credit as something stable to apply for better terms, better existence. Existence, that's the wrong term. Better terms, more available credit. Being picky and choosy on which credit card you're going to apply for, or which loan application you're going to do, will go a long way to limit the amount of queries that you have, which essentially affects your credit score. So let's do a quick recap. First, focus on trying to have stable, steady employment that you can show for consistently over at least 2 years. At least 2 years of the same employment that you've been at. Longer the better. So if you can do 2 years, that's great. That's a starting spot. But at least, I should even put it as a year. But let's just, I say 2 years because it just shows a pattern. Secondly, focus on your residency. Make sure it's at the same location. If you could keep the same location that you lived at, especially check your credit report to show that, it goes a long way in establishing good credit worthiness for any creditor looking to provide you any credit to begin with. And finally, watch the inquiries and be selective. And when you're applying for credit, too many inquiries will actually limit your credit score, and limit your credit score. More choice of words, lower your credit score. So those three different aspects to pay attention to and be mindful of. And then going back to the fundamentals, especially as the credit market and lending practices begin to change. If this video has been any value to you, please subscribe, leave a comment. And until my next video for Banks Credit Chat, I'm out.